Thank you very much, and welcome to the session. Right, so I guess with the recession, everyone is, singing doom and gloom and complaining about Nigeria. But the truth is, there's a lot to look forward to. I think that Nigeria is actually being reborn. The same way each of us have been born through pain, this is what is happening, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you in the next few minutes. Let me just start with this quote. The best time to climb an elephant is when it is seated, so that when it rises, you're already on its back. What does this mean for us?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What does this mean for us? It simply means that this is a time of opportunity, an easy climb. And that's because so many people are looking for local alternatives. A friend of mine owned a factory that she was planning to sell because business was low. What's she still doing with this thing? Might as well just sell the asset, liquidate it, and invest in something else. And then suddenly she gets a contract where she has to make 1.2 million bags monthly. Bazooka. Because the company used to import those bags, and now they can't because they can't access foreign exchange. And this is happening in so many places. So she's now, in fact, she has left her posh house in Ikoyi and has camped beside the factory to ensure that her boys meet the orders. Okay? And this is happening in too many sectors. Most people are saying my business is dying. And this is simply because they have not accepted that the music has changed, and so their dance steps need to change as well. As we say, imagine if somebody was dancing, Fela, and then they change suddenly to soft jazz and you continue to dance like as if you're dancing Fela. You think the person is mad. You have to change. So the music has changed. It's time for us to do things differently, because if we try to do what we were doing before, in the midst of the recession, it's not going to work. A good example is what landlords are doing. So yes, traditionally what happens with landlords? You increase your rent every year, right? Imagine trying to increase your rent in a year where many people are losing their jobs, and there's so many other constraints to business. Businesses are folding down. So the automatic thing to do is to go the reverse gear. First and foremost, I can't increase my rent. Second, can I look for affordable in some payment terms? Can people begin to pay monthly or quarterly? It sounds bizarre, right? Because it's never done in Nigeria. But ask yourself, abroad, who collects rent for a year? Usually, you pay either weekly or monthly. But because we have been so used to too much money in Africa, in Nigeria especially, we're collecting for 2 years. And if we can, 3 years. And I won't be surprised if in some places it's for 5. In fact, it is 5 years in some places. I wrote a case on one of my students whose head office is in Computer Village, Slot. And when he was taking me around, indeed, they actually pay 5 years rent for the stalls. And I was shocked. And he says, you even pay 10,000 naira for the form because there's a long waiting list. Okay? So the time for that has passed. It's not now. This is the time for reviewing your payment terms. I remember some 3-4 years ago, I was saying this to people in the classrooms, that if they were willing to bring down to change their payment terms, they could actually collect more money, because of course if you're collecting your rent monthly, you would charge a little bit more, and at the end of the year you get more than you normally collect at the end of the year. People said, it's not done, it can't be done. Well, this year I have a guy in the class, in the OMP class, who's making a turnover of 6 billion, and that's exactly what he's been doing. And when I saw him, I finally smiled. I said, this was an idea I had. I'm not in real estate. And each time I threw it out to the class, they would say, it can't happen. No, it's not like that. People run it. I said, there are ways to do it. After all, Hyundai and, was it Honda? Yes. Used to have an arrangement with banks. At the time when Nigerians were only buying Tokumbo cars, second-hand cars, Hyundai had an arrangement whereby they worked with banks and gave each new hire a new car, and the money was deducted from their salaries monthly. And so while other car manufacturers were not selling, Honda was selling in leaps and bounds because of this arrangement they were having with companies. So it's really about being willing to break industry orthodoxy and doing things differently. What will work? So also talking with your staff, because many times they actually have they actually have great ideas. But if we run a company where we only give instructions, we do not discuss, then staff get used to just listening to you and bottling up the ideas. 90% of the problems we each go home with every day can be solved by your staff, if only we will talk with them and not just to them. The real estate industry got a real bashing. But however, while some people were suffering because nobody was nobody was buying, everybody wanted to sell, others had their best year last year. Who can guess how they did this? Same industry, dealing with houses. Some collapsed completely, some totally just lost it, others were growing. Very simple. So our exchange rates went through the roof, and people thought, wow, this is now an opportunity for Nigerians in the diaspora who have always wanted to own a home here in Nigeria, and it's always been too expensive for them. Because now, no matter how little they have, if they change it to Naira, it becomes something really big and they can buy. And so this friend of mine camped abroad and sold in leaps and bounds, because she was telling the Nigerians she knew, went through her network, this is the time for you to own that home you've always wanted to own. Because there were forced sales, companies that were closing down were selling off, people who were losing their jobs were selling assets. So it was really a time when the demand and supply, cost of properties went down, and people abroad, because their value, the exchange rate was in their favor, were able to buy a lot. Another opportunity was this. Nigeria saved 62.8 billion from the importation of French fries in 2016. And it's shocking to see that we're importing potatoes to the tune of that amount. Simply because in the north, potatoes grow in such abundance that they say when the farmers take it to the market to sell, whatever is left over, they don't even bother taking back home because it's cheaper to just leave it to rot in the market. So if we had this amount of potatoes, why were we importing this? Some people have told me, oh, because it's a specific species that you fry and it stays crisp and up there. But I know somebody also has told me, well, yes, some potatoes stay better than others, but there's a technique to it. You simply boil with salt and air dry. And once you've done that, once you fry the chips, they'll be crispy and they'll stay straight. So what was so difficult about that for us? Now, I don't know if you've ever read the ingredients on ketchup. Heinz ketchup, which has been imported into this country even before I was born. Have you ever read the ingredients?
No.
Very simple. Tomato paste, salt, sugar, spices. That's all, nothing else. And we're importing it.
Since ages.
Forever. I'm in my 40s, so forever. So, and then look at that, Nigeria is the 14th largest producer of tomato in the world. So there are just too many opportunities. The other day, a young lady said to me, I was teaching a group of people called, it was a group called Young Business Leaders. They come to LBS every year. And it's a lady, I've forgotten her name now. She went for Obama's yearly program in the US and came back and decided to train entrepreneurs outside Lagos because she felt entrepreneurs in Lagos have a lot of opportunities. And so I was asking each of them what they did. And one of them said to me, I make powdered tomatoes. And I did a double take at first because I was wondering powdered tomatoes. She said, but you take powdered pepper? I said, yes. She said, okay, so powdered pepper, powdered tomatoes. Because a lot of tomatoes get rotten between the north and the south. And so I'm preserving it. And I thought, great idea. Indeed, what we women do when we're cooking is that we fry the tomatoes until it loses all the liquid, all the water. So why not indeed use powdered tomatoes, which is already dehydrated and therefore will be faster to prepare. So I thought this is a great idea. So we have Erisco now making Puri and the Dangote plant trying to do this. But the point is, why did it take us so long? And so you're beginning to see why I think the recession is actually good for us, because it's bringing us to our senses. We just were not thinking. It was easy to import, therefore import. Maybe also because of all the issues we have here with power and all that. So there's tomato juice also, that we can make. And all these things come into this country, and they're not even going to be half as nourishing as they will be if we made them here. Because it will be fresher, it will have less preservatives, and therefore it will be more nutritious. Sorry. So the recession actually presents huge opportunities for Nigerians who are willing to work well. The shoes you see here are made by one of my past students. You should actually be exhibiting out there. Someone wanted to buy from him and said to him, bring me a couple of samples. And when I was looking at them, he said, so where do you get your shoes from? Italy or Spain? And he said, I made them. He said, it's not true. He looked at them again. You make them? He said, yes, I make them. He said, give me all of them. By the time he asked how much, of course it was cheaper because he didn't have to pay, he wasn't calculating the exchange rate or the import, the freight cost or anything, okay? So, but it is true that we developed the taste for imported things because we're used to the fact that Nigerians cut corners. We don't do things well. And that in itself is a competitive advantage for those who will do things well. So anything you do well today will sell. It's now in vogue to have all these bags and shoes. In fact, that's why I'm dressed like this. Normally I'll be wearing a suit. Okay? But I wanted to wear something African because if you're able to do these things well, they are also export opportunities. So these bags and shoes today are selling big time, but the challenge here is nobody has been able to commercialize them on a large scale. So you'll find young people like one of the ladies out there who do these things, but they do it on a small scale. But there's a huge market for this, not only in Europe and America, but also in neighboring African countries. When I went to Ghana last year, they were excited about showing me, the best things in town. And they said, well, we'll take you to a store. Don't get too excited when you get there because it is so beautiful. I mean, people get there and they're mesmerized. So they took me to this store. I forget what the name is. I got there and I couldn't even pretend. It was a store of, I think it's the next slide. So I was going to say, even Louis Vuitton would admire these. Oh, sorry, I'll come to the story, to that slide later. So anyway, we got to this store and I couldn't hide my disappointment. And then I had to say to my friend, they're nice, but in Nigeria we've gone beyond this. Because Nigerians have taste. Nigerians are very fashionable. So what I was seeing there was nonsense compared to what I was seeing in Nigeria. I said, we embellish stuff. Okay? And we have trendier cuts. So yes, these are nice, but I'm used to a bit, So, so you can imagine if a Nigerian sat up there and guess what? What's their currency? 3.9 cedis to the dollar. Ours, we're still rejoicing that it's 300 and something. Because we've been doing close to 500. So imagine if you were to export things to Ghana and you were to sell there and change your money to dollars before coming back to Nigeria. You're making a killing. It won't matter to you if it's $900 900 naira to $1 because, hey, you're doing exports. So one way to connect would be to find these young people who are doing these fantastic things and see how you can scale them up. Because if we had a factory where people who had desire to come and produce this, and when I say a factory, it's not too expensive. When I went to Kenya, I met a guy who was doing $1 million per annum, and he was operating from, maybe because I have two microphones, he was operating from his garage. He was making yogurt, different brands. He was making $1 million per annum and was going to scale to make to $3 million per annum by the next year. So when we hear factories, for those who have been to China, you've seen what the Chinese factories look like. Nothing, just one small cupboard, smaller than this room sometimes, okay? So, and they produce things that we're scrambling for. So we too can do that, especially because we have the talent. So let's scale and export. This is one of my favorite students because, some of you may know him, maybe he was in your class. I remember when I was teaching them entrepreneurship, I was saying to them, entrepreneurship is about creating value. He said, no, it's about the pepper. Give me the Benjamin. Those are slangs for cash. It's all about the money. I said, Paul, no. Value drives profits. Give value, money will come. And he said, typical Igbo man. It's all about the money. Entrepreneurship for the money. And so Paul continues the journey with us and comes on the executive MBA program. And again, I hit them with value. Paul, value. Give value. Value drives profits. So Paul then finally decided to listen. Paul has been in the business of selling toys, and he's been doing this for over 10 years. And so Paul decided to come up with toys, Nigerian dolls, that's called that's Aisha, Amaka, and Ronke in the middle. These dolls were meant to help the African child be proud of her skin color, her curly hair, and teach them about the 3 major tribes, so Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba culture. So in the packaging, they have a little book where you can read about the Igbo culture in nice, colorful print and all that. And he was making these dolls in China. But anyway, but the key thing here was that these dolls were meant not only to just sell and make money, but to create unity, educate the girl child, and also improve education. So he ended up renovating a school somewhere in Ikorodu, which was totally dilapidated, with some of the proceeds from these dolls, and brought the dolls. The first time he came to me, he said, I need endorsements. I said, Paul, these dolls are absolutely gorgeous. You don't need any endorsements. But he wasn't sure of himself. But then when he took it to game, they not only made a huge order, they said to him, now you have to make a doll for Africa. Make Malaika. So there's another African doll called Malaika made by Paul. Now, these dolls have brought Paul much more money than he has made in 10 years from all his other educational toys. And Paul has a company that is 5 floors of only toys, educational and all whatnot. But these dolls have done more for him. He said, before I started making these dolls, not even PM News wanted to speak to me. Today, CNN, Forbes, CNBC, there is practically no media house, no major media house that haven't come to Nigeria to interview Paul and feature him in their magazines. Now, the story doesn't end there. With the recession, of course, it became more expensive for Paul to produce in China and bring in here. So he decided to bring in completely knocked down dolls, naked, and make the clothes in Nigeria. So that did 2 things for him. First of all, the dolls now have a variety of clothing. They're not just wearing one type of dress. So they're even more exciting, they're more beautiful now. But more importantly, is the impact it's making in the lives of many women. Because people who make the dolls, the dresses for the dolls are disabled women who would never have been employed by anybody else. So now he has empowered them, and he's so fulfilled. He first of all tried to get a lady who was in the sewing business, sewing children's clothes, to make these dolls for him, the clothing for him. And she was quite expensive, and he felt, look, I produce these things en masse. You can't make each one so expensively. And I said, oh, impact. Who can you impact? And then he decided to go to these women who are not only dedicated, but also take their time to do all kinds of styles for Paul. So today he's enjoying not just wealth from the value he has created, but also fulfillment, knowing that these women are the better for it. I put this picture here to show you the contrast in mindset when, rather than creating value, we're looking for only money. How many of us can understand what is there? I got the cartoon from a newspaper, and I thought, this is exactly what is happening to me. How many of us have experienced this? That's your bank account. Who is this? Nigerian banks. SMS charges. See all the bank charges. Suddenly, stamp duty. See, they say no COT. COT has come back. Then there's VAT. Then there's account maintenance fee. Then you have the ATM fees. All chomping away at your small accounts. So each time you open your account, you haven't withdrawn, but there's less money. Terrible. And this is what happens when we are not thinking about creating value for the customer. Okay? Some banks have done something more creative. They're now touching those SMEs that they would never have touched with a long pole, because public sector funds have dried up. TSA is here. And so that sector that was so high risk that it shouldn't be touched is now being touched. We're now saying, let us de-risk the sector. Okay? Which makes sense. But why didn't we think about it before? Again, the recession has triggered our thinking in the right way. So for those who are complaining, I would like us to rethink things. I don't know if you know who this is. The richest man in China. Acknowledged by everybody, including our dear Donald Trump, who actually invited him for a personal interview in his hotel. And at some point in during WEF, Obama actually interviewed him. Obama was the interviewer, interviewing Jack Ma. So he says, opportunities lie in the place where complaints are. I follow this guy very closely. If I teach entrepreneurship, I have to understand what makes this guy tick. And guess what? This business that has made him the richest man in China was started out to create a platform to enable other SMEs. He found it so difficult to do business as an SME that he decided to create something that would help other SMEs and find a way to make money from it. For the first few years, he wasn't making money, but people got to know that that platform was useful. And by the time he started charging for the use of the platform, people were willing to pay and were happy to pay. And today, as I said, he's the richest man in China, and his net worth continues to grow daily. And so he's telling us, look, opportunities lie in the place where complaints are. Every problem is a potentially profitable business opportunity. And there's so many problems here in Nigeria. Okay? I don't know if my students who are doing PAP are out there, but they can't meet demand for their PAP. Because their PAP is also not just the common PAP, but they don't use sugar, but it's sweet because they sweeten it with dates. So it's healthy. So there's almost nothing, any pain point you see around you is an opportunity. So the point here is not just about going into entrepreneurship, but being mission-driven, purpose-driven. What problem are you solving? Okay? What need can you meet or are you meeting? Because if you're not meeting a need or not solving a problem, that business is not likely to be sustainable. But if you're solving a problem, it means that you have a ready market. People will be willing to pay for your solution, no matter what it is. Even if it's okay, there's too many dirty gutters. They say Lekki is highbrow, but you take a walk around and you have to hold your nose because all the stagnant gutters are exposed, Now, imagine if someone were to see this problem and say, okay, I'm an engineer, I know how I can solve this problem, and you decide to go to the Residents Association chairman to say, look, I can solve this problem. He will say, okay, do an analysis and give us a quote. And then you do the analysis and give a quote. He will simply say, fantastic, count the number of residents, divide it by or maybe he will negotiate a bit, and say, okay, come back in a month's time. When the next time I have a Residents Association meeting, he will bring it up. And people will be more than willing to pay because they know the cost of having so many mosquitoes, having floods during the rainy season and all that. Now, who will you use to get this job done? The jobless boys waiting for labor every day and getting into crime because they're idle. But you're in big money. You've empowered these people with jobs. You're also creating a better enabling environment and you're pocketing a lot of money. Well deserved at that. So there's practically no problem that cannot become a business opportunity if we look at it closely. And I like this definition of Richard Branson. You know how people always think that people in academia are theoretical. So I always like to bring up practitioner definitions. And Richard Branson defines entrepreneurship. He says the core of entrepreneurship is value creation by providing solutions to problems and needs of humanity. And it is true. Why is he a very rich man today? People wanted to move, and they said, okay, rather than compare myself with other airlines, I will compete with the cars on the road. So his flight cost is not much more expensive. If you're going to fly from London to Manchester, for example, and you want to take a taxi or some form of road transportation, or you have to fly by Virgin, okay, it won't be much more different. He says, and all the 200 companies under his group are all solving problems. And he's one of the richest men in the world. Why is Dangote the richest man in Africa? Some will say, he has government patronage, but that is blinding ourselves to the reality on ground, because he's not the only one who has government patronage. But the point is, he's into recession-proof products. Would you stop buying salt and sugar or flour or cement because of the recession? No. Why is Bill Gates the richest man in the world? We all need him. If you remember, to use a computer before, you had to go to computer school, right? Because you had to learn those commands, C:///. It was horrible. And then he comes up with these windows where you can see, you can imagine, okay, you want to cut, you see a pair of scissors. You want to paste, you see two things that look similar. So now you can just turn on the computer and get on with it. So the whole world needs him. So the larger the problem, the larger the solution, I mean, the more relevant your solution is to more people, the wealthier you become. Tata, the same thing. Tata has made vehicles, I mean, the tricycles we call Kekemara here in Nigeria were invented by him. He invented the Tata Nano because one day he saw a whole family, father, mother, children, and I think a goat as well, on a motorcycle, and he thought, this is terrible. This is so because people cannot afford cars. So he went to a car manufacturing company. He did the math in his head and thought, okay, maybe 400 rupees. Can you make a car, it's affordable to that class of people. Says, can you make a car that will cost just 400 rupees? He said, it's impossible. Whoa. The process, the materials, and gave all kinds of reasons why it was impossible. So he realized that these people were suffering from what we call path dependence. You're used to doing something in a particular way, and you can't think of any other way to do it. So he went to the Polytechnic, and he gave a prize and said, anybody who can invent a car within this price range, I will give you a prize. And of course, they came up with it. And those cars, the Tata Nano, are sold from the US to right up to Africa, here in Nigeria. And those cars were created just to ensure that the poor could afford to ride cars. And he's gone on ahead to do the same thing for books that the poor would ordinarily not afford. He gets the copyrights and does the more affordable version. Water filters, name it. And they're some of the richest people in India today, and in the world today. Okay. Right, so what do these people have in common? You know, Walmart is a well-known store. Okay, they give you the lowest, they give you the highest value for the lowest quality. For the lowest price. Affordability is there. There is the name of their game. So it may not be such high quality, but it will be acceptable. But at least you can manage. You can get everything you want from any Walmart store. So everyday lower prices is their logo. So what do these people have in common?
They have created value.
Exactly. They've all created value. So why are we looking for money without creating value? And we think we'll be wealthy. In fact, I have another presentation, I don't think I put it here, where I put their net worth. By the time you get to Dangote, he's looking like a poor man compared to the rest of them. Simply because these people are creating global value. And by the time he's creating value for Africa, but by the time he begins to create global value, he will also join their league. So there are different kinds of entrepreneurs. You have the ones who are necessity-driven, trying to survive. The ones who are profit-driven. It's not about to be profit-driven, just that it becomes a problem when it's profit at all costs without any value. We don't care about, problems, say that is for NGOs or for the government. And many times, such entrepreneurs do not contribute to the economy because they work to the detriment of the economy. So for instance, I make sure there's no power so people can buy my generators, or people can buy my diesel. So you're personally wealthy, but you've crippled the entire economy. And then you have the impact-driven entrepreneurs. These people want to make money, but they're interested in impact. Okay, so these people see business as a tool to transform society. They improve society, and they also make money. And at the end of the day, research has shown that these people create more wealth than, I'm just going backwards or forwards. Yeah. These people create more wealth than even these people. They have more money, as you just saw, because Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and all those other people actually are impact-driven entrepreneurs who are making more money than anybody else in the world. And these are the type of entrepreneurs that Africa needs. These are the real engines of growth. So if we want to make money for the long haul, we have to ask ourselves what value we are bringing to society. So we need to see entrepreneurship as this. Find a need, feel a need, provide a solution that fills that need, create value, and the wealth will come with it. Very simple. What need can I meet? And the needs are all around us. The other day, we're discussing in my MBA group how KFC has closed down in Onwuegbuzie, Isaac John, and Allen. And I thought, Why are we complaining? So we asked somebody in my class who's actually in the company that brought KFC to Nigeria why that was happening. They said, oh, they can't meet their overheads, and so there's no point, that KFC is aspirational. And I was thinking, aspirational in a recession, and you're not changing strategy, obviously you close down. And I felt opportunities for an indigenous entrepreneur to come up with something really delicious, nutritious, and affordable, and people will buy. And then I started hearing things like Giz Bolly, Gizzard in Bolly, very popular in Port Harcourt, I hear. Bolly Burger, put akara in the middle of Bolly. I thought, whoa, how creative. Okay, and of course our usual dundun, akara, asun, suya. These are things that don't require you to have a large infrastructure. You can just have a food cart, push it out there. In fact, I was saying to them, you know what? Let's have an African salad bar. And they said, okay, what would that cost? I said, cost nothing. Don't we have a kitchen? We simply prepare it in the kitchen and then have carts that roll it out. And 2 days after saying this, what did I see on Awolowo Road? Somebody selling asum. He just had this little coal thing, and if you wanted, he had these 2 containers, 500 and 1,000 naira. He would put it into the silver styrofoam, the silver pack, seal it, give you nice serviette and some toothpicks in it, and pass it on to you. And he told me he sells 3 goats a day. Each goat costs about 20,000. And I thought, this is the proof of concept. We can do that with Nkwobi, with Isiewu, with, whatever, or war, anything. And people who have been in my classes know that I talk about starting small, thinking big. No high overheads. Use your kitchen. Find somebody who can cook these things properly. And then get a cart, roll it out, take the restaurant to the people, don't wait for them to come to you. So, let's look at a few problems we have. For example, no forex import wheat. Do you know that cassava bread is much more nutritious than wheat bread? In fact, wheat bread is actually bad for us. Gluten. Cassava bread is rich in minerals, calcium, phosphorus, manganese. You can Google it. It's not rocket science. Okay? And I remember the past President Jonathan and the Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala at one of the economic summit meetings trying to convince Nigerians to manage the combination of wheat and cassava. And now, when I discovered that, I said to myself, why didn't we do just a little bit of research? I didn't even do much research. I just went on Google, health benefits of cassava bread. And all this came up. And I thought, so we have the cassava, but we're importing. In fact, now you can't even find cassava. You know why? Because Tiger Brands has come in from South Africa. And they've gone to every single cassava farm they can find and told them, we will buy up all that you're producing. Because they're a food company, a fast-moving consumer good company. So you can't even find cassava to make gari anymore. That's why gari is getting expensive. So why didn't we see these opportunities before and take advantage of them? It's still here. If the first type of bread you make may not be very soft, but you keep on researching, because that's the same thing that happened in Europe. If you watch all these old movies like Fiddler on the Roof, okay? Who has seen that movie, Fiddler on the Roof? Any old movie? You will see that, notice that the bread that they were eating then was so hard that if they stone you with it, you collapse. But today it's softer. What that tells you is that everything evolves. So we can also begin to evolve our cassava bread, but it has already been evolved to this point because this is actually cassava bread you're looking at. Tiger nuts also gives you flour. And what's more, this flour is actually better than wheat flour again because it is gluten-free. Gluten is not good for the body. In fact, some people react to it, okay? You can make cookies, cakes, pizzas from this flour. And this is something that is very, very cheap. This is actually a product of one of my students. She should be out there exhibiting, okay? She now packages tiger nuts for sale in supermarkets. And she's planning to also package the gluten-free flour from the tiger nuts. And also make the milk, which is possible. And these are all very highly nutritious products that even have export potential. So if you are a tailor during the recession, you will have noticed that you have less customers because people are thinking of how to feed, not how to sew new clothes. But then again, can you grow this business? Definitely. How? Training. Many people have lost their jobs. They're thinking of what to do. Nigerians will always have parties, and so you will always have people wanting to sew ashwebi. So Train people to simulate your sales. In fact, if you are training, you'll find that you have grown your capacity to be able to do more things than if you are just doing it commercially. So for example, if you have a training school, you can have a factory that makes uniforms for school children, for instance. You can have a factory that makes uniforms for companies, hospitals. But if you don't have a training school that gives you ready, skilled labor, it's difficult for you to embark on that scale. I've been saying this also for about 4 years, and only this year I met somebody who is actually doing this. And she's making so much money, she didn't want to reveal it to the class. Even though she started because she said she asked God to show her mission, and then she had a dream and saw herself teaching people to sew, and she didn't know how to sew. And she said the voice said to her, when you wake up, you will go and learn how to sew. Well, she woke up and she did go to learn to sew. And today she has training schools in different parts of Lagos, and she's making a lot of money. She does mass production. She says, all my friends complain about not finding tailors. I don't have that problem, simply because she has this training school. And the beautiful thing about the training school is that she's empowering people, keeping women off the streets. So, and then you don't really, she charges a fee, but she also gives a scholarship. And she says to me, guess what? The ones who are most ungrateful are the ones you give a scholarship to. But I do it. I keep doing it because I don't even want them to thank me so I can go to heaven and enjoy the merits of it. If they thank me here, it means I'll have less heaven. Okay, these are her words. But the point is that these business models that empower also enrich, also accelerate profitability. So another way to be able to get people who can't even afford to pay to learn is to say you can earn to learn. So they train because they can't afford to pay you. They will work for you for some time to earn the fees for their tuition. But that's also free labor for you to be able to produce and scale. Again, you could also add value to what you do. Make matching accessories, okay, earrings, bangles, neck pieces, all these things are now available. So the benefits are increased capacity and ability to embark on large orders, whether locally or for exports. You're baking, and you're wondering how to stimulate demand, very easy, okay? Again, you can either train, and one of my students is doing that. In fact, my student made so much money. My students, the ones who I make start a business on the MBA, are actually given only 5,000 naira. And I tell them, I don't care how much money you have, you don't add a dime to it. You're going to start this business with 5,000 naira. They have to report to me every 2 weeks. And so I know the progress. So you can't just come one day and say, oh, I made $1 million. We will know how you made it because we'll grow together or suffer together. And the one who was training people to bake made about 600,000 from that 500 naira, from 5,000 naira in a month. And so she was so excited that she's now, focusing on growing that business. Because she said, this is good money. I mean, I'm on the MBA. This was only on Saturdays. I was training, in some cases, house girls or housewives or whatever. And see how much money I have made in a very short time. And on top of that, they were even helping me bake for my Christmas sales. They helped her bake her Christmas cakes. So it was, I mean, she empowered them, but she also made a lot of money from her side. And she didn't add the Christmas sales to the 600,000 she made. So this was just from training fees from the people who participated in the training. Right, so another way to do it is to customize. People are getting more and more health conscious. Okay, people who are diabetic, people who have cholesterol want cakes, but they're afraid of having it. So why don't we make healthy cakes? So if people know that you make healthy cakes, they'll come to you, or healthy snacks, they'll come to you. Again, you can have contracts with schools, because when it's a child's birthday, the mother has to think about ordering the cake, getting the drinks, this and that. Give them a list. Here's the list, and here are the prices. If it's your child's birthday, just tick what you want. Just bring your child to school, and we'll have everything waiting for you when you get to school. That's a service I'm sure many parents will be only too happy to have. Okay, so there are quite a number of opportunities that can be taken advantage of, whether there's a recession or not. Now let's quickly look at other opportunities. Now, I get very excited these days because sometimes I go to supermarkets and I'm thinking I'm touching imported goods, but they're all made in Nigeria. So I saw this discussion and I was thinking to myself, I get sad when I see things that we can make here and we're importing. And I thought, again, imported. And I decided, I wonder which country this is from. I looked closely and it was made in Nigeria. And I thought, fantastic. I saw this problem and I thought, Again, imported. I looked closely, again, made in Nigeria. I saw, okay, kilishi is obviously made in Nigeria, but now it's now being packed better. And then that is rosemary caramelized cashew nuts. Again, made in Nigeria. And I thought, this is really a rebirth. Since when did we go into supermarkets and to see so many products made in Nigeria? It's very rare, but it's becoming common. So maybe by the end of the recession, supermarkets will be 90% filled with Nigerian-made products. And of course, each of these products means labor, employment for our people, and value remaining in the country. So as I said before, people are searching for local alternatives, and anybody who is smart enough to provide it will have a huge market. Expensive kerosene. It means that if people can produce biogas, they will have customers. Biogas is pretty cheap, and I've met people who say they can produce this. In fact, there's a Chinese company that's willing to do this for Nigeria without Nigerian money. They say, look, let's come and do it for you. We'll clear all your gutters, all your septic tanks, we use it to produce power for you. So they simply make their money from billing people for the power they produce, but they don't need you to give them money to create that. And I thought this is great value for us, because Fashola is there, losing hair every day, and the things are still not working. So they can complement his efforts. So somebody please tell him to accept the offer, because they've been trying to approach the Nigerian government. Okay? Fast foods, fries. These fries were imported for 62.8 billion naira. Do you know that our sweet potatoes are much more nourishing? Rich in vitamin C, they are tastier also. So let's begin to adapt those things. Let's not only adopt, let's adapt things. The same way KFC started providing jollof rice. Nigeria is the only country where KFC provides jollof rice, because they know that this is what Nigerians want. So fries, let's also see how we can bring in sweet potatoes into the fries market, because Irish potatoes are not as nourishing as sweet potatoes. Tailoring, look for schools and produce their school uniforms. There are schools here in Nigeria that import their school uniforms and school shoes. So with this exchange rate, they're definitely looking for local alternatives. So if you have a training school, hey, there's a big market waiting for you. Expensive cement and falling buildings because people are cutting corners. Okay? Did you know that mud is stronger than cement? Bulletproof, soundproof, bomb-proof. Why are we not using it? Because we have not done the research. They use cement abroad, we must use cement here. We can even combine it. It's all about research. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I met somebody who said to me, I'm building low-cost houses around LBS so that your students can hire a place. And I said to him, I've been wondering why it has taken so long for people to think about that. MBAs are looking for accommodation. We have executive MBAs who have intensive weeks and want a place to stay while they're doing that intensive week. That guy is going to clean out, okay? And he's not just building conventional houses, he's using a technology called SWC or something like that, where you prefabricate and then you set up, okay? So each house costs, I don't know what is it, it's 20 million or 15 or so, but the point is, they're low cost, but at the same time durable. So let's begin to research what we have. We can use mud to build and build modern houses. And indeed, even abroad, they're already using this, and I'll show you some pictures of mud houses abroad. Expensive fast food outlets. Let's have mobile food carts selling good quality food at affordable, okay? And local brands. Onwuegbuzie, as I said before, Isiewu, Owo, anything. In the agricultural sector, our biggest problem is waste. 40% of all that's produced gets wasted. So can we provide grinders, processors at clusters so that the farmers will pay to use these grinders and be able to preserve their products, their produce better? For example, we can go to a ginger farm, okay, and offer to blend, dry and grind and bag their ginger, and that way it will last longer and they will get more money for this. So this is a mud house in Europe, and we have more mud that we can care for here in Nigeria. Why don't we use it? How did they build that? This house is built from plastic bottles. So plastic waste is a problem. But some people have found a way to use it to build, durable houses, okay? Oh, sorry, okay? And then more recently, people in Nigeria are now building from containers. So the walls are insulated. By the time they finish, it's going to look like a normal house, but it's built from containers. It comes up in 3 months, and the cost is 1/4 of what it costs to build a conventional house. So these are ideas we need to begin to explore to solve our housing problems. And then there are even greater opportunities in the agri-business sector, okay? So we see Zobo, we only know it about, we see it mainly in, wheelbarrows, and we see it at best in poorly packaged bottles. But it can begin to look like this. And people will pay more, and children will take it to school, because it's actually healthier than the Capri Sun, Fun Man, and all those sugary drinks that children take to school and actually suffer from attention deficit hyperactive disorder as a result of the excess sugar. So this doesn't require importing the containers or anything. Everything produced here, and you make your money here. Millet Konu has all these health benefits, but I have never tasted it because I only see it like this. But if I went to a hotel or if I went to a store and I saw Konu in that sort of packaging, Tetra Pak, or I went to a hotel and I got it in a glass like that, I would have the confidence to taste it. So it's just to evolve it, the same way pure water has evolved from that sort of packaging to what it is today, sachet water. Okay, healthier than the carbonated soft drinks we all have, Coke, Fanta. Palm wine, again, several health benefits. Poorly packaged, at best you see it like this, but some young people have started putting it in cans and they're exporting it. This is made in Nigeria. Can you believe it? Yes? So you see how once you see something is well packaged, you don't think it's made in Nigeria because we don't usually do things well. So once you do something well, you're going to have a lot of markets. I think the author of this is here. One of our past MBA students, Sweet and Savory. This is a box of Nigerian snacks. You could just compare it to a box of chocolates, but instead, this time around, you have healthy Nigerian snacks in it. Okay? Dankwa, tiger nuts, kuli kuli, coconut balls, and you buy it. And this can be sold at airports, in hotels. People want souvenirs from Nigeria. So the same way we buy a box of chocolates from the UK, we can also buy a box of Nigerian snacks from Nigeria and take it over there when we go there. Okay? So a value chain for job and wealth creation. I hope you have some displayed out there. Okay? So kuli kuli, you see it like this, you're pricing it for 50 naira, 100 naira. If they say 200, you say it's too much. If you see it like that, you say kulai kulai. You say only 500, please give me 2. So you see how packaging changes things. Now, our Professor Iwu has been saying that Nigeria can make 2.4 trillion yearly from natural medicine products. And he's actually put his money where his mouth is, because he has a lot of products that he has packaged well. He has produced, for example, tablets of bitter cola, which solves a lot of health problems. But I was thinking, these things grow like, bush here, and we haven't used them. I have a packet of lemongrass tea I bought from Holland and Barrett in the UK. They don't grow lemongrass in the UK, they grow it here. Why can't we do it here? I think people are beginning to do it now, but when I go to the shops and I see a huge section of Chinese teas, I ask myself, why am I not in African teas? Or herbs from Africa, because we have a lot of herbs here. And apparently we have one of the best herbs in the world. Why are we not making tea from those things? Okay, soursop leaves, soursop bark can be made into teas and they're very good for preventing and curing cancer, for example. Okay, so, and according to somebody who's into this trade, he says, nature has done things such that what's in your environment is best for you. So our own herbs are better for us than those Chinese teas. Bitter leaf, this is a silver bullet. Okay, rather than just have it as soup, we can make tablets from it. We can also have the juice made like the Forever Living products. We can also have our Nigerian Forever Living products. For those who are pharmacists, you know how these things get done. They're not very difficult. In fact, these days you can go on YouTube and just ask yourself, how can I preserve a herbal product? There's almost nothing you can't find on YouTube. Okay, now, amazing, ogbono, also called African bush mango seed, is a rave in the US because of its ability to help weight loss without dietary change or activity level. That bottle of ogbono seeds is $56. I also saw it for myself here in Nigeria for 7,000 naira. That was about 2 years ago. So why are we not using it? So we simply haven't evolved the things that we have. Okay, we've heard about moringa and all its health benefits and its uses. We can package. But these days, I must admit, I'm beginning to see moringa well packaged in pharmacies. The powder, the seeds, the tablets, the oil. Okay? But these again these also have export potential if well made. We know that shea butter is the new gold. People want it and they want it crude. You can never meet demand, not even locally. Talk less of exporting it. So again, we need to repackage. Packaged like this, I've seen it sold in Nigeria for 2,500. When I ask people to buy for me locally, they buy this for 100 naira. See the difference. The same thing inside here, in this form 100 naira, in this form 2,500. Packaging. The fashion industry, $10 billion, I've told you already, huge export potential that we need to take advantage of, okay? One of my students did this last year, so 2 years ago, and people were exporting, people were buying from him and exporting. So those are a few, just to help us see that there are a lot of opportunities we can take advantage of. But for companies already existing, I'm sure you will just want a few tips as to how you can get your company streamlined to survive the recession. And I'll just quickly go through the last 3 slides. So low demand, high inflation, competition leading to price wars, increased crime because people are losing their jobs or can't find jobs. So what do we do? Okay? Manage lean, okay, but be careful. And to manage lean, you need to review you need to involve your staff. Okay? Say to them, this is the scenario. If I can't pay salaries, I have to sack people. If you don't want to go, then let's see how we can reduce our costs and look for new markets. And you'll be very surprised at what they will share with you. Okay? Don't think alone, don't suffer alone. Ask questions like, where can we buy cheaper? Can we get higher discounts if we aggregate purchases? If you have different branches, can you buy in one location so you can get lower unit costs and then distribute to other branches? What substitutes exist? And then if people come up with great ideas that save you a lot of money or bring new markets, do you reward those cost-saving ideas? Okay? Ask yourself, what new needs can you satisfy? I remember during the crisis in 2008, I happened to be doing my PhD in the UK, and I was shocked to see McDonald's have meals for £1 for kids. Because people were withdrawing their kids from school. They couldn't afford to pay school fees. They couldn't even eat. So McDonald's, instead of losing their customers, immediately created opportunities because they produce en masse. So even at £1, they could actually make some money. And people were rushing in and taking advantage of those deals. So let's see how we can also change the way we price, our pricing models, to get people through the door. So revise operations, hire on contract, especially if business is seasonal. Consider selling idle assets, backward integration, okay? Again, as we spoke before, affordability. Can you do monthly rent or quarterly rent? Rewarding good ideas with incentive to create incentives for innovation, and then cost-effective advertising. Gone are the days when you have to have large billboards. Those work, but going online is almost just as effective, if not more effective. And then you can also provide attractive commissions to make full-time staff want to become contract staff and explore new markets. Okay? Customer service is something that doesn't cost you more money but brings you more money. So get your staff to listen more to the customers to get better ideas or new ideas. Create convenience, and remember, value, sell solutions, not just your products. I'm rushing because it's time for questions and answers. What you shouldn't do, don't be passive. Avoid denial. Okay, face the reality and acknowledge that you have to change the way things are going. And then create awareness. And then don't overanalyze on the other hand. Avoid analysis paralysis. Okay, so understand what's going on, discuss it, and then take action once you've agreed on what to do. But then also avoid knee-jerk reactions. Don't act out of panic, okay? Act, not react. Don't take actions that can harm your future, okay? Stop training, stop research, or say everything becomes, from the head office and everybody queues up there and can't deliver to customers on time. So avoid panic, okay? Create awareness and say, let's work towards a solution rather than make people feel that they have to steal from you because you're going to sack them very soon. Right. So I think that we'll stop here, but just a few things not a few things, just one thing for us to keep in mind, that as society gets more impoverished, each of us here become endangered species, okay? Keep in mind that if we empower people, it also empowers our businesses. So whatever it is we're thinking about doing, let's keep in mind that the more people we empower, the more money we make, and the safer we all will be because we'll have shared prosperity. So I think that with this, we'll identify a problem, provide solutions, make money from it, and that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.